Welcome to TALRadio powered by Touch a Life Foundation. This is yet another episode of Voices of Impact, a series where we celebrate socially conscious individuals across the globe. Today, we have with us Dr. J.M. Sampath. Dr. Sampath, an Ashoka Fellow, has over 40 years of experience in management consulting and coaching, impacting 100,000 individuals and organizations worldwide. His innovative frameworks like the DNA of decision making and the excellence framework have guided C-suite executives towards peak performance. As a guest faculty at prestigious institutions and author of 3 books, his work promotes vision, values, and learning. He is the managing director at Adpita Associates, founder and CEO of Nirdarshana Technologies, and founding director of FL Educational Services. His ventures have garnered accolades, including Nirdarshana Technologies being awarded Best HR Startup by NHRD in 2018. To conclude, as Aristotle once said, excellence is never an accident. It is always a result of high intention, sincere effort, and intelligent execution. From TALRadio, we extend a warm welcome to Dr. Sampath.
Thank you, Pavithra. I'm quite excited to be a part of this process. I think you guys are doing a great job.
Thank you so much, sir. Sir, I would like to start by asking that you have had very humble beginnings and you went on to become an entrepreneur and then a serial entrepreneur. And all your ventures are rooted in compassion. I would like to know what pivoted you to this and what was that one particular instance which drove you to this sort of a journey? And what prompted you to dedicate your life towards bringing out excellence in individuals and organizations?
Well, I don't think any of these things that I'm doing today was thought through very seriously. Okay. Life has been guiding us, and we've just been taking cues from it and moving on. So to answer your question, the thing that triggered me was, like anybody, I finished my master's. I joined a large public sector and was a management training there. The 18 months of training was a beautiful period. It was like the honeymoon. But once I started working, I had a boss with whom I used to have challenges and difficulties. But even as a student of social work at Madras School of Social Work, I was introduced to quite a few self-analytics processes like the encounter group, T group. And I was also introduced to meditation like transcendental meditation. And I was pretty regular in practicing them. Mm. So that was the first time that I also started looking at the world within me. Till then, I was not very aware of who I was and what I am made of and all that. So this inquiring and what I was seeing around were definitely something which became the foundation for what I'm doing today. So when I looked around, there were people who could get along with my boss, but there were some of us who had challenges. And I said, look, if he's a problem, everybody should have a problem with him. The very fact that some of us have and some of us don't have means I also have a share in this problem with him. And what is my share? Did a lot of reflection, introspection, thinking. It took almost 6 months for me to get the actual answer, which was my values didn't match with his values. So we were in conflict. So I said, if values are at the source of human conflict, what is the work that's being done in this space? So I went and started doing all the literature review, cold model, this model, that model, but none of them were answering the question that I was having and my challenge with my boss. That is when I said, let me think about this and come up with something. So I created the first book come game called Discovery, the primary objective of which was to introduce basic human values to a person. That by itself is a story. The birth of discovery itself is a story, which we will take up at another time. So there came a time when I had to make a choice to either fit into the system or get out of the system, because public sectors are large and they have a culture and you have to fit into that. So I decided to quit. I was a bonded executive. I paid my bond and quit. Went to a private sector only to realize that I jumped from frying pan to fire. I saw my company stealing sugarcane from farmers. So I said, life is trying to tell me something, let me move on. So I quit the job with no resources in hand. In fact, I was minus 50,000 in my bank. But I could not sleep that night when I came to know that this is what is happening in my company. And next day I went and gave a note of separation, telling my company if I continue to work, I might become an activist working against you, taking your salary. So the company was very happy to let me go. And I still remember, I came that evening. The next day morning, me and my friend were sharing an apartment. Every day morning, we would fight. You do this, you do that. I will do this. The next day morning, I had no reason to fight with anyone. The world was completely open, and I had a fresh beginning. So that life was the triggering point. So I decided to move on. And in a month's time, I got elected as a Ashoka Fellow. And since I came from the corporate world was pulling me into it, and they were giving me opportunities to do value clarification workshops. For a year, I was dabbling with them, and soon I started my first company, Arpita Associates Private Limited, which became the mother company for consulting. So that was my first. Life has been the trigger for me to become an entrepreneur. I think had I got a good boss, maybe I would have been a chief HR officer for a large company today. But the life had a different design. So therefore, that is the trigger point for me to start on my own.
Yeah. And it's very interesting because I had a very similar journey, at least in the initial stages. I also started as a management trainee in a quasi-government organization. And I used to have an issue with my boss as well. And I took it up so personally, but I did not know how to navigate through that. And one of the themes that you have talked about also in your book is self-discovery and introspection. And I feel that has played a very important role in seeing the opportunity when you had to, give up your corporate job and finding the opportunity and going to an entrepreneurial venture. All this requires a very Zen-like quality. And having a Zen-like quality is a result of introspection. And all your three books that you have written, it delves deeply into introspection. It delves deeply into self-awareness. So maybe it was a reality probably 2 decades ago. It's much easier for people because they're not constantly distracted. Now we have an attention span which is less than 8 seconds. So in this age, how do you see that as people who are aspiring to be entrepreneurs don't get carried away by what is shown on the social media and are able to get the time to actually introspect and be self-aware before they enter into an entrepreneurial journey?
I think there are different kinds of people who want to become entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm sure you understand the success rate is not very high. For
Great. Yeah.
every one successful entrepreneur, there are 1,000 who have failed. My understanding of success and failure and the way one starts the journey is one has to be very alert and very socially conscious. Socially conscious if you want to be a social entrepreneur, very business conscious if you want to be a entrepreneur wanting to lead a business. There are enough challenges around us. Are we even looking at them as challenges, looking at them as opportunities, or are we cribbing about them? Our idea should be, hey, what are the things where I can add value? I can make a difference. Those who think like that become much more stronger in their view. I mean, I was recently listening to a audiobook on Elon Musk, where his vision is very different. He wants to enhance the quality of life in everything that he does. That is the underlying theme. So he is not demotivated. He might be his way of doing things could be very, very different, questionable. But I think the fundamental cause that he is working towards that the world is degenerating. If we can't live here, we should have a space to live. So all his work is predominantly focused on that. So very early in my life, I made a vision for myself. When I was hardly 30, I said, in this lifetime, I want to understand myself. And out of that understanding, leave something behind for those who want to understand themselves.
Yeah.
Now, that became the trigger for me to do several things. And many times, when I sit back and ask myself, have I been a very successful entrepreneur? It really didn't matter for me. What mattered for me was, am I leaving something behind for those who want? They may get it, I don't know when, but it is there. And as we are talking, we are now planning to come up with more than 100 Instagram, YouTube videos, which will have nuggets of life. We want to leave that digital trace for, I don't know who all would want it, when they will want it, how they will consume it. It doesn't matter, but leave it there. It will be consumed by the right people at the right time. Now, when I start pushing myself and trusting myself on people, then I face resistance.
Yeah.
So, therefore, every venture that I have taken up has been something which has come on its own to me rather than me going to it, and I have built it. I would tell youngsters who want to start, be very sensitive. Some of them are very smart, so they can talk a lot, do very little.
Yeah.
So therefore, they will get funding, everything, and soon we will know what will happen. And we have so many big names falling like a pack of crumbling cards. So therefore, I think one should have the fundamental very, very clearly stated. For a youngster to be a successful entrepreneur, he or she should be very clear why he wants to do this. What is the purpose behind? If the purpose behind is to make money, for all you know, they may end up making money. They may hardly make a difference. But if the purpose is to make a difference, they will eventually make money. I think this difference is, I've heard, I mean, being in Bangalore, which is nest for many young entrepreneurs. They, even before starting the company, they are looking at how much am I going to sell this company, which is very strange. And I've seen many of them fail. If they didn't fail, the guy who bought the company failed. So somebody lost somewhere. What is important is, hey, are you clear about your fundamentals? Are you clear about why you want to do this business? And what is the benefit it is going to bring to what kind of people? That's going to be very, very important. If we don't have that answered well, then the business will have a lot of bumpy ride.
Yeah, absolutely. I had a very similar conversation with Shailu Tipiraju sir yesterday, and he was telling me pretty much the same thing, that today's youngsters are more the whole ambition is based on the fact that they want to become the first trillionaire. And not on something on what is the kind of difference that they want to make, and probably like it takes a lot of inward journey to discover what is the kind of mark you want to leave in this world.
Yeah.
And talking about leaving mark in the world, so one of the recurring theme in all your entrepreneurial venture is evolutionary excellence. It's a fancy term, and I when I first read the word in your bio, in your LinkedIn bio, it got me thinking about this particular quote that we have always come across in Instagram and Facebook, and that is, you can't expect a fish to climb the tree. And were you going for something like that? And what is the term means to you personally? And what is evolutionary excellence? Is it a journey or is it an ultimate destination?
So we need to understand that excellence is only a journey. It is something that I don't think I will ever uh, reach the destiny. And in my workshops, when I ask people to give me their meaning of excellence, people would come up with variety of meanings. The best thing that one can do, I mean, all kinds of things. But my meaning for excellence is flawlessness.
Mm.
In that which I cannot find a flaw. And if that is excellence, like you go and stand in front of Taj Mahal, even if you're an architect, you can hardly find a flaw. And that is why it's one of the seven wonders of the world. It's so appropriate, so well balanced, so beautiful, so well thought through. Such right material have been used. So it's very beautiful. So for me to be on the journey of excellence, one of the ways which is most workable for me is identify flaw, correct it only to identify the next flaw. Correct that to identify the next flaw. It's a journey. And with every flaw that I correct and overcome and deal with, I'm evolving as a person. And one day maybe I will be flawless. And that day I will be Buddha or whatever, whoever it is. Okay. So that is the journey that I talk about when I say evolutionary excellence. Every time that you are improving yourself, you're evolving and you're evolving towards becoming excellent. So that is why I chose that term. And I don't know, will I ever be flawless in my life? But the journey will continue.
That's a beautiful way to put it. And talking about flaws, what came to my mind is your old ex-boss. And I'm just curious to know, you have worked with so many organizations, so many individuals, and across the globe, in fact. So, in your mind, what makes an excellent leader and what makes an excellent organization to work with?
I think there are several interesting what case studies I share many a time. I was once working on in Malaysia with a project team that was building the second Penang Bridge.
Mm.
And the way I had to go and work with them was I worked with the organization which had the contract. It was a $300 million project, 4.5 year timeline, 7.5 kilometers bridge across the ocean, connecting Penang and the mainland. 1.5 years into the project, they were 6 months behind schedule. They were drawing money from the corporate. And we were doing a lot of other work for this company called UEM. And when I was sitting with the MD for a review of something else, he said, Sampath, there's a challenge here. Is there something that you can do? So I said, okay, let me go and try. So I went and these guys, when you're building a bridge across the ocean, your office is just like next to the ocean. And these 23 guys walk into the room at 9 o'clock with a muddy boot. I mean, I was shocked because I've never seen such a group walk into a training program. So to cut the story short, we started the process and I asked them, hey, do you have a vision for this project? They laughed at me and said, we are a project team. Today we'll build a bridge, tomorrow road, day after something else. What are you talking about vision? I said, look, you have 4.5 years and 300 million. Go to Kuala Lumpur, even $100 million company has a vision. Why can't you think of a vision? So to cut the story short, they created a vision saying that we will create a world-class bridge that we'll be proud of. Then they came up with the values that they will live by during the project life cycle and the smart goals that they will achieve in terms of safety, quality, timeline, profitability, innovation, and so on. To just give you the result of what they did, they finished the project 3 months before schedule.
Wow.
And within 3 months of our intervention, they started managing within the project finance. And the bridge was covered by National Geography under mega structures. The 7.5 kilometer road was Formula One standard road. And the name of these 23 people was engraved in copper and put under the bridge. And when the bridge was handed over to the nation, the MD said, Sampath, you also have a share. Why I gave this case study is, what is leadership? I think a good leader is somebody who is very clear about where he is going, where the organization is going, where he has to take the people. If that clarity is not there, then there is going to be a lot of confusion. Everybody will be going in every direction. So for a leader, that focus, clarity on where we are going is very, very critical. So, what is that we want to achieve? It should be clear in not only leaders' mind, it should be clear in everyone's mind. Why are we here? Every morning when I walk into the office, why am I here? The second question is, hey, what are the values that we are going to live by during this journey as we want to achieve something? I mean, I usually quote this great example when it comes to values. I think my generation will remember that. Maybe the younger generation may not. They can always Google. There were these two what sprinters, Ben Johnson and Carl Lewis. Both of them had the same vision to be the fastest. One worked hard, the other took the drug. On the day of the event finals, Ben Johnson was first, but within 2 days, he turned positive and everything was taken away from him. So, therefore, if my values are not in place, if I'm not going to be conscious of how I'm going to run my business as a leader, again, I'm likely to face troubles because I will have many conflicting situations. So I need my vision to be clear. I need my value to be clear. I need to have my goals that will help me to live these two. Having said that, just these two will not take you further. The day you stop learning, you will become repetitive. Your journey stops. You start thinking, oh, I know this, I know that, I know what's going to happen. It's not real. Today, in the world that we live, it's so dynamic. Things are changing by the minute. And if I am not learning, I'm not going to move forward. So for me, a good leader is somebody who's constantly learning and who is becoming sensitive to the environment and who's alive to the changing scenario. So I came up with a concept called 5 C's. Every leader should be able to do this before his competition can do. So the 5 C's are ability to connect two interesting dots, correlate them, contextualize, create, and capitalize. If somebody can do that better than the other, they would be leading the industry. But what happens to many of us is the minute we succeed, we stop connecting dots. And we start believing that we know everything, we have succeeded. Success gets into our system. And that's when you also stop learning. But for a leader to really be successful, they, in fact, they need to answer these 4 questions. What is it I want to achieve? How am I going to achieve? Why of what and how? And when and where to do what? So what I want to achieve is my vision, my purpose. How I will achieve will come from my values. Why of what and how? Why that vision? Why these values will provide me clarity. So I'm not thinking, hey, how is this value helping me? I need to have that clarity. When and where to do what will depend on the context. Today, if you're not going to be context relevant, there will be no mercy that you will be shipped out. The environment is today becoming more and more merciless to those who are not relevant.
Yeah.
And relevance as a word is constantly changing. So many realities are showing up. Nobody thought a couple of years ago that AI will take over so fast.
Yes.
And if I go by what I hear and what I read and what I'm learning, they say by 28, most of the repetitive jobs will be taken over by. So if you today see, at least 90% of the jobs are repetitive. So where are these 90% of the people going to go? How are they going to be managed? There's a huge challenge we all need to be mindful of.
So beyond relevance, I also feel one of the important aspect that you have also talked a lot about is emotional intelligence. and the necessity even for students to understand the basics of psychology. And this, in fact, I think you have spoken in many interviews as something which would make an ordinary boss into an exceptional leader. What is your take on that? And how do you find this generation when it comes to emotional quotient and having compassion?
Uh, First, let me talk about the emotional part. I use a different language.
Mm,
I think for a good leader, the head and heart should be balanced.
mm, okay.
The head is intelligence, heart is the emotion. If I take heart sometimes goes by the gut level, head goes by data.
Mm,
And if I don't balance them well, and I am not going to be aware of my bias towards either of them, I'm likely to be in trouble. I remember my dad sharing with me this is a scene in a court that there was this accused who was in the box standing, and he had a very good lawyer
mm,
who fought for him and almost got him acquitted. And when this guy who actually committed the crime was getting out of the box, he had a smile which gave away. And the judge picked up that smile and convicted him.
oh,
Now, that judge for me is a well balanced person.
yeah. Heart
He,
and heart.
yeah, he knew that one can argue a case using all intelligence and all, but there is something called as the truth. And to get to the truth, you need both your head and heart.
Mm,
So, therefore, I think I just brought that example to let the younger generation know. Today, one of the things that I hear from the younger generation when you ask them something is, I don't know, whatever. These are languages I'm, 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 I'm not even aware when I was their age. To tell somebody I don't know, I would feel very embarrassed.
mm,
I would go and try to find out, go and do some homework to figure out, hey, what is it that they're asking out of me? It's not that it's good that if you don't know, you say you don't know. At least I
mhm,
respect your honesty.
mhm,
It is important for me to know that you're putting effort to get to know it. So I think there is a certain kind of a slackness. At the same time, I also believe there is a great degree of confidence,
mm,
which is the foundation for this generation to take a leap. There is going to be uh, a lot more stringent filters that this generation is going to face.
mm,
And I'm not very sure how well this generation is equipped to cope with losses,
yeah.
cope
Yeah.
with failure. My hunch and reading is this generation finds it very, very, very difficult to cope with failures.
Yes. Yes.
Uh, mm, I mean, I only pray and wish that they are far, far superior to any of us
Mm,
in terms of their knowledge, understanding, intelligence. But how they use is going to make them who they become.
yeah.
If you're going to use your intelligence to manipulate, you're going to take another road. If you're going to use that intelligence to create, you will be on another path. If you use that intelligence to build this society, you will be on another path. But I think I also believe freedom is a very critical component of today's younger generation. Any kind of restriction, their tendency is to violently resist it.
Mm, yeah.
So therefore, I mean, I can imagine uh, the need for freedom because at 20, why at 20? I think at 15, 16, I loved my freedom. And I was fortunate that I had my parents who never questioned on anything that I wanted to do. They never passed any judgments.
Mm,
But I think one took advantage of that freedom to be able to make something out of what was available. I only wish that the intelligence and the freedom that this generation is asking is converged into something very meaningful for their own and the larger society's well-being.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. And I was just thinking, as you were speaking, that if the current generation uses its freedom in the right manner and also develops the emotional resilience that the previous generation has been having, it would be a deadly combination. And
Okay.
that's something we should definitely hope for, because emotional resilience, like you said, even within my own generation and within me, I see that I'm not as emotionally resilient as my parents, and that is something we need to work on. Like you said, that is the flaw that we need to fix. And sir, before concluding the interview, I would like to know just like what are the 3 points for any young entrepreneur to know before they get into the entrepreneurial venture? What should they be prepared for? Definitely, preparation for facing failure is one thing that you had already stated. What are the other 3 things that they should be prepared for?
I use a very different language, which may not be the corporate kind of language. If you've not fallen in love with that idea, and I'm using falling in love as a very important term, because if you are in love, anything that you see, you will connect it to it.
Beautiful.
So if your idea is so strong that anything you see, you should be able to connect to it. That is for me a very key indicator that, yeah, this guy is passionate or this girl is passionate and they will succeed. So, how much do you really? I mean, when I was writing my first book, come Game Discovery,
Mhm.
I think that 2.5 years, I didn't know anything else. And I could see the book in everything that I was doing. I would go into a bookstore with 10,000 books looking for something specific, and my hand would go and touch the book in first 5 minutes, and I would get it. So therefore, that kind of engagement is very critical.
Yeah.
You can't think of it as a job or anything. Second thing is, when I'm an entrepreneur, I need to know how to have a committed team
Mhm.
that equally loves what they are going to do, who have a passion for it. They are not there because they want to earn money, they want to have a part of the success or part of the share, but they are first bought into the idea and then the rest of the things. I don't say money is not important.
Mhm.
To me, money will follow you if you follow your passion.
Yeah.
But if you follow money, maybe passion may not follow.
Mhm.
So I think that's a very important thing that I would like an youngster to keep in mind. I mean, many things have been said about the things that an entrepreneur should be aware of, but I'm trying to give a different tone and different note. The third thing that I would like every entrepreneur to be conscious of and ready for is, I give this story of the Chinese bamboo. For first 5 years, you'll only see a small shoot.
Yeah.
And there comes a time, and you keep tendering to it, you keep attending to it. And there comes a time that within 6 weeks, it grows to 18 feet tall. So when you believe in your idea, have patience. It will emerge.
Yeah.
Be at it. But having said that, I also understand that this generation's need for instant gratification
Yes.
is so high. If I can't get it now, I don't want it forever. I think that is something that this generation will have to deal with very, very strongly and be prepared to play the long marathon rather than a short sprint. So I think these are the three things that I think you should be in love with what you want to do. You should uh, have a set of people who believe in what you want to do, and you should have the patience to wait for things to turn around and not give up uh, before it turns around.
That's a beautiful way to wind up this interview, sir. I had a great time interviewing you and learning about all these things, your journey. Thank you so much for being a part of the Voices of Impact series. I am looking forward to collaborating with you more in the future from TALRadio. Um, so we are excited to, feature you in the upcoming podcast as well. So we are looking forward to it. Thank you so much, sir.
My pleasure, and I should say that Touch a Life Foundation is doing such a great job, and you are in particular doing an excellent work. I believe that we need a lot more of such things to be spread because there is so much being pumped into the system, and I don't know if we can stop that, but we can increase pumping the right thing. I mean, pumping the things that might be more relevant. So you guys are doing exactly that, and I'm looking forward to. I'm happy to collaborate. It's our pleasure. Thank you. Thank you so
Thank you.
much.
Thank you. Thank you. So, to our listeners, that's the end of today's episode. See you again next week. And this is your host, Pavithra Krishnakumar, signing off. Thank you.